look, the director of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheetle, she's been grilled over in Congress. Listen.
The assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump on July 13th is the most significant operational failure of the Secret Service in decades, and I am keeping him and his family in my thoughts. The Secret Service's solemn mission is to protect our nation's leaders. On July 13th, we failed.
You did indeed. Many people now say that she should have to step down. What do you make to all this, Ben Habib? It was really quite shocking.
Well, without wishing to go through the events, I suppose you've got to go through the events, which no doubt people have done ad nauseum. There was clearly a massive breach of security on the day. These high points which should have been policed and cordoned off or had eyes on them at least, were allowed to go unchecked. The people in the crowd saw this guy getting his rifle ready. He had a high-powered rifle. It wasn't a sporting rifle, not one you can, get out and put together easily. It requires a bit of effort. And then it took 2 or 3 minutes, and he let off, 4 or 5 shots before he was taken out. I mean, the whole thing was a disaster. And then I'm not a security expert, but the way Trump went down and then emerged standing proud with his head presented again in case, if there'd been another shooter. He was presented by the security services, in my mind. They were around him, but he was standing proud above them. The whole thing was a disaster. And whether or not Cheetle should resign is really not for me to say. I don't know the inner workings of the American Secret Service. But, massive breach of security.
I just find it absolutely fascinating because when anything kind of bad happens, tragic, everyone pops up and everyone seems to think they're like an armchair expert in whatever subject it is. Notwithstanding that, you really don't need to be an armchair expert to have seen lots of the footage where people were literally filming the shooter and saying to the police, there's a guy up there, he's got a gun, he's got a gun. You really don't need to know anything really about inner workings to know that that was completely catastrophic failure.
Exactly, and apparently didn't the killer's, the shooter's father, didn't he contact the police as well sometime before? I mean, I don't know enough about the relationship between the Secret Service and the police, that the police can't move without the Secret Service saying so. But, I mean, it does seem, as you point out, Michelle, if people were going, look, he's up there, he's bear crawling on the roof and all the rest of it, why did they let it happen? And
why was the roof unchecked?
Well, exactly, yeah.
Indeed. Anyway, so there's calls for Harris to stand down, but I can tell you now there's also calls for Joe Biden to stand down as well. Everyone will know by now that he's not going to run in the next election. Also, Kamala Harris, she's been speaking out as well today. Let's take a listen.
Our president, Joe Biden, wanted to be here today. He is feeling much better and recovering fast. Joe Biden's legacy of accomplishment over the past 3 years is unmatched in modern history. In one term, he has already, yes, you may clap. In one term, he has already surpassed the legacy of most presidents who have served 2 terms in office.
Now, Ben, there'll be some people tuning in that are going, oh, Michelle, there's so much going on in the UK. Why are you focusing on all of this US stuff? But actually, what is going on in the UK will have a huge potential impact here. Sorry, in the US will have a huge potential impact here in the UK. Keir Starmer, he was speaking out today, and the first load of questions to him was directly about this as well. Joe Biden, should he go?
So, I mean, he absolutely should go. And any president who hands in the nomination de facto admits he has to go. And the case was, unanswerable, I think, for him to go. What is remarkable is that he hasn't left office now. If he's not fit to stand for election in November, he's presumably not fit to be president.
But we don't know the reasons why he's not standing, do we?
Well, I think it's pretty clear, isn't it, Michelle? Again, without wishing to, jump in, he's incapable of holding a coherent conversation,
I think that
let alone govern the country.
We're surmising. He didn't say in his letter, I am withdrawing my name from this nomination because of illness or because my doctors have told me to. He just said, I'm stepping back. Now, the cynics amongst us and those of us who follow elections closely would say he's looked at the numbers and he knows he can't beat Trump. But, it is...
But that's no reason to give up the nomination.
Well, but it might be for him
Well, that's an incredibly cavalier approach
it might
to,
be. It might
to your
not
position.
Be. I wonder whether once the Democrats have chosen who their nominee is, that he then might make a decision about, OK, he doesn't need to stand down. They've got a vice...
He has to stood down.
No, but you mean standing down from the presidency.
So he's taken his name off. He doesn't want to be the nominee anymore, but he's, of course, still in office.
Yeah, we know he's down.
He's going to stay in office till January.
And there are people who say he should therefore stand down from the presidency. Well, why? He's got a vice president. That's what she was doing.
Well, let's remind ourselves then what's caused a lot of this controversy, because a lot of it, many people will say that things started to go wrong for Biden during that debate. I think it was about the 27th of June. Things like this were occurring. Watch.
Eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden.
On the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
And I mean, I've got to say, look at this one as well. You'll be familiar with this mix-up as well.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin.
See, I've got to say, I'm laughing because you're laughing, Ben.
It's beyond debate, isn't it?
I've always maintained, I've never changed, that I've always felt uncomfortable about this, because there is a mocking of the decline going on, and it makes me so uncomfortable because I feel like I'm watching almost like an elderly relative cognitively decline.
But, I mean, there's a human
stage.
aspect to feeling sympathy, of course, and we shouldn't be unsympathetic. But he is the president of the free world. He's the president of the most powerful country on earth. He has to have his wits about him. He can't get on stage and forget who the president
hang on a minute. I mean, I think,
of Ukraine is.
There is a point
We're caught in a war.
I mean, I've just mixed up Biden and Trump when we were speaking earlier. You can do that.
But, Joe, you're not running the US of A.
No, I'm not. I'm not. But I think, we're focusing on Biden. We're not focusing on the absolute balderdash that comes out of the mouth of Donald Trump, who talks about Hannibal Lecter as though he's a real person and a personal friend.
Can I just say...
hang on a minute, because I just want to make the point, or go back to Michelle's point. I mean, I watched my dad die. And he had Alzheimer's and dementia, and my mother's in a care home with dementia. It is, as many people watching this and listening to this will know, it is the most appalling disease. It robs you of everything that you knew about that person, and it robs them of their dignity. And I think, one of the things that's hardest to deal with, and this is the assumption that is what he's suffering from, which, of course, we don't know.
Well, he's got a cognitive dysfunction.
He's got a cognitive decline, but we don't know. But let us assume that is the thing. And one of the things that happens to people with Alzheimer or dementia is that they have moments of lucidity, and then, and we are into, and luckily somebody has done it, you've got to take the car keys away, which has now happened.
And that then begs the question why he's still in office, doesn't it?
Because he's got a vice president and he's got people around him.
You're saying someone with cognitive difficulties could be the president of the United States of America? I just don't buy that.
Donald Trump standing. I mean, I would like to see the focus on him.
Hold on, because that's completely different. If someone's got a medical condition,
but we don't know that.
That's why I said
it's pretty clear, isn't it? He's got a medical condition.
One assumes.
Or he's so intellectually challenged. It's one or the other.
Well, we assume, but we don't know.
You see, one of the things that I do feel has been going on is you see stuff with your own eyes and you watch kind of exchanges like that, and they're uncomfortable, they're not nice
awful
to watch. But then when you're seeing someone decline, then we're constantly being almost like gaslit in a way, because when people are flagging concerns and saying, look, this person, there's something not quite right here, then you're being told all the time we're being manipulated and that what we're seeing isn't real, and so on and so forth. And it's pretty damn insulting, actually. And I don't understand why the loved ones of Joe Biden has put him through this. Why would you not have been in his ear trying to, encourage Dad or husband or whatever?
And I think that's a really good question, Michelle. And I think, there are a lot of fingers have been pointing at Jill Biden over the last few months, and certainly since that dreadful debate. and she's been painted as a sort of Lady Macbeth figure, that why was she not saying to him, look, sweetie, the game's up, it's time to withdraw gracefully?
But the bigger debate for me, by the way, he's gone. He's not. Well, he's gone in the future. Whether or not he should go now, I kind of agree reluctantly with you that it probably makes no difference. I personally would get rid of him if he's not able to stand for election. But can I just move on from that? The bigger debate here is Kamala Harris effectively circumventing all the, which I suspect is going to happen, all the normal processes to get the Democratic nomination through the back door, symptomatic of the way the Conservative Party started acting in the last few days in its office. And people now saying we can't challenge her nomination because she's I hate this expression, person of colour, and it would be seen to be all blooming awful if someone put their hat in the ring. And also that anyone is fearful of challenging her because if she loses the election, as she likely is, they'll then blame them for it. I mean, the whole thing has become a bit of a charade, hasn't it?
Has it? You tell me at home, what do you think about that?